Everything is being influenced by code written by developers.
At some point, you're going to wake up and say, what the hell am I doing?
It's hard to believe. It's the largest group I've ever been in front of, I think.
We develop the future.
Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the next edition of WeAreDevelopers Live, our series of mini conference for developers and IT specialists. My name is Sehgal and I will guide you through the upcoming sessions. And today we have our DevOps day. We have many interesting sessions for you prepared. We are going to kick the day off with an interesting workshop, a hands-on life hacking session, stranger danger, with a great speaker. We'll come back to that very shortly. We're also going to talk about AI and ML ops, SRE in an agency environment, CI/CD pipelines, and branching databases. So a lot of stuff to learn today. But before we start, a couple of reminders. So first of all, as you already saw, we have announced our WeAreDevelopers World Congress, an in-person event with 5,000 developers taking place in Berlin this summer in June. So make sure to get your tickets at worldcongress.dev. Next thing, besides the stream, you can see a chat window. So feel free to use it, engage with each other, and most importantly, ask your questions to the speakers. After every session, we will have a Q&A session. So we will be happy to answer all your questions. And while doing so, we also have a code of conduct. Here is a short video for that. And last thing before we kick off with the first session is you can win a Nintendo Switch. So today is the last chance to join a promotion of our partner Deloitte. Just scroll a bit down on the event page and you can answer a short question and have a chance to win this amazing console. So we at WeAreDevelopers, when we are not running events, we do play Mario Kart. Very nice. So, and with all of that said, let's come to our first session, a workshop. Our first speaker and workshop host has tons of experience in application and product security. She is a very active member of the developer community, speaking at many events. She's a security relations leader at Synk, and she's chair of OVA's Global Board of Directors. So please welcome Vandana on stage.
Hi, Syed. I'm so glad to be here, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing fine. How are you doing?
Good, good. So the weather outside here in Vienna is a bit cold, so it's the perfect time to have this session. Before we start with the workshop, do you want to give us a short preview, just a few words about what the participants are going to learn?
Absolutely. So what the participants are going to learn about software security and the issues that we are seeing in the real world around software security and cyber security. And why are we even speaking about it? Because developers are instrumental in helping the whole world in fixing all these issues. And they are actually impacting a lot of organizations, universities, college, and even common people. So it is important that we understand what are these issues and be a security champion of that and start helping. Because it's not just that security person has to be a security champion or they are the ones. No,
Mhm.
developers are the best people, or the testers are the best people to be the security champions.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very important. So I want to take more of your time. We will see each other in the Q&A session after the workshop. And yeah, wish you a lot of fun. And yeah, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and start. So, for everyone who is listening, I would like to say that first I will start off with some of the theory. We will set up the stage, and then we will do a few of the demos. Now, it is not, if it's a workshop, it doesn't mean that I'm just going to go ahead and do these sessions and going to be giving you some demos. No, it is not going to stop there. You will be doing some hands on with me, and I wanted to give you the details earlier, but then I felt that I want you to experience the fails. I am sure all of you faced it, especially when we are building something. But at the same time, experience the vulnerabilities that are new, that have just been recently uh, come into picture, come into the limelight, and everybody was like talking about it. So just stay tuned for it. Especially in the end, we will do a quick hands-on session around log4j, and there's a vulnerability in express framework. It's not a vulnerability in express framework, but then the way we provide the inputs, and how libraries or dependencies can be tricky, critical, and why do we need to take a look at them. And especially me being a developer in the beginning of my career, and I understood that there are so many things that we have to take care. But yes, if we understand security by design, it becomes even more helpful, it becomes even more enjoyable, and we don't want anybody to question our product, our feature, or anything, especially from a security side. I now, when I joined the security team, the other side of the fence, it became even the more important that I understand the pain that we all are going through and how exactly we can resolve in a friendly way, if I put it this way. So let me go ahead and get started. Oh, this happens when I share my second monitor. So I am currently serving at Sneak as a security relations leader. I'm also on the OWASP Global Board of Directors. Just yesterday itself, I've joined the next 2 years and joined the position of a chair for OWASP. I also lead certain diversity initiatives in India, InfoSec Girls, InfoSec Kids for Kids, and InfoSec Diversity, so that we can have more people joining from different areas of the tech world, non-tech world, and join the cybersecurity field. So we educate people, we share knowledge with them. And now, while we come back to this presentation, what do you see? Sorry, what do you see here? Now, what I see is some futuristic image of something that I really want. Right? Let's take a moment to reflect on this picture and this photograph. When we look at this picture, I feel this is something which I want to see in my future, where I have some robots doing all the work. And now we've seen that so many automated things are coming up. We have smart TVs, we have smart geysers, we have smart washing machines, to what not. And even my friend just bought a robot which can actually sweep and mop the house. How cool that is! Like everything, you don't have to worry about. Similarly, we have technology where we want automation. We want to make sure that we use these bigger techniques or the newer techniques which are there. We want the world to be modernized. But how much does this robot learn about the people that we have at home? How much is the information which is being shared? Is it stored safely? Is it how exactly we are taking care of that information? So the point comes is that we need to be very careful. And if I think about where does this robot gets the software update from, like, have you ever thought of it? The devices that you have at home, all the internet connected devices, I'm sure they're getting update from somewhere. If there's an upstream source which is compromised, which is actually downloading the update, what can happen? Your robot would get compromised, or the devices that you have would get compromised. And what's the probability that someone hacks into it and can watch the video feed to uh, speak to your parents, speak to you, or even your child? There are some of these things that keep me up at night, and I keep thinking about it. But then comes a point that today I would like to share that the real world stories which can help all of us, and how developers play a fundamental role in the recent and growing security incidents. And why should we care about software supply chain security? And if I talk about leaving you with the thought, where do you put your trust on? It is very, very important to understand. Now, let me go ahead and ask you, have you ever thought developers could become malware distribution vehicle? I never thought. But let me give you some scenarios wherein developers became the vehicle to distribute the malwares and backdoor for a very long time. There was a study which was done in 1984. Like, that's a long back, which is a whole Trojan story. Now, after that, there are so many things that have happened. Let me share this event stream incident. You can actually go back and check it. So in 2018, the JavaScript ecosystem witnessed its first high impact spearheaded surgical attack, which was targeting the maintainers and developers who they were working on open source, and at the same time they became the malware distribution vehicle. Now, what happened there? Event Stream existed on this whole npm.js registry since 2011 and practically did not receive any new release in the last 2 years, but get millions on millions of downloads per week. Out of the blue, a person comes back and says that I want to help you out with a GitHub repository, opening an issue, wanting to help, and and we all know that it's a custom. If there's an open source project that we care about, we want to help. And especially being part of the open source community in a bigger way, it even makes me more closer to all these things. Now, this person started contributing code with several pull requests. All was going fine. Then what happened? They created a pull request that adds a dependency into the event stream own package. Now, the whole tree with supposedly genuine intent, but then a few weeks later, they added a code payload inside the dependency and which injected a malware specifically into the Bitcoin wallet. Wow, that sounds very crazy. But yes, this is an actual incident which happened. So when we are dealing with all of these dependencies, it is very, very important to look at them and track them. And if I talk about this particular incident, this has gone unnoticed for almost 3 months, resulting in with two versions released of the different app that they were using. And let's take a look at what happens with different languages or ecosystem. How much do you think that when we talk about our code, how much do we write as our own native code? This is what I feel. And it's a mental exercise. Imagine you build an app and you say it's Java or Node.js or any other platform. This mental image of the application is the following block. This is my app. Now, which is wholesome, but then this is the actual, this is the reality. The code that we write to build the application is significantly small. And there was a research done by Synk where they figured out 80 to 90% of the code on the internet is open source. And I hope we all agree to it. And at the same time, only 10 to 20% is natively written code. So we are relying a lot on the community powered code, open source code. And we are leveraging this beautiful open source world. Why? Because it boosts our productivity and it really, really helps. But at the same time, if we look at this in this way, how about someone start attacking the heart of developer tooling? How much thought are we giving to the security of our own development infrastructure? Resources like cloud instances, staging environments, or the build and continuous integration tooling, right? So let me share this recent example. It's not recent, but it's still valid. In January 2021, a researcher broke into Microsoft Visual Studio Code GitHub repository, essentially providing them with the capabilities of making code modification. So this happened with a very, very popular and loved IDE that many developers and security people use. That's Visual Studio Code. Now, this command injection flaw that made possible a very valid attack vector due to the flawed regular expression. So simply by opening a new pull request, the researcher was able to execute the code that Visual Studio Code CI scripts were running. Now you are using a Visual Studio Code, and suddenly you are using a vulnerable plugin, and I send you a script and you're hacked. Would you like it? I wouldn't like it. So these are very, very important things. And at the same time, what is the software security state? Open source software security state. How much do we know about current state, what it entails? Now, this is a classic example. As a case study, we refer to Markdown or this JavaScript Markdown parser. Now, it actually dates back to several years, but it's still relevant. Why do I say that? Because this parser was used and downloaded multiple times a week. And one of the most popular libraries for this purpose is the JavaScript and Node.js ecosystem. But one day, a security researcher opened a code pull request, which reports and fixes XSS vulnerability. Now, what is an XSS vulnerability? XSS is cross-site scripting. So when an application takes input from the user in the form of a script, without validating, it executes it and prints the result back to the user. That's called cross-site scripting. Now, in that case, generally we use sanitization function, output encoding. But in this case, it was not present. Now, this also helped in future code regressions. This seems to be a nice one, but then if we look at open source cultures, it is not easy to approve this pull request if we are using. I created an open source project. After a year, 2 years, I don't have ample of bandwidth to fix these bugs. So what I'm going to do? What can I go ahead and start fixing these bugs? Sometimes not, and that's how people request for help. If this project you really like, organizations are using it, let's support the ecosystem. And another important thing is that the maintainers or the people who are contributing not liable to any legal or contractual obligations. So this vulnerability was left out in the open with no fix for a year. And this is like a smaller case, but then there are many other cases which exist. And the security issue was, if you can see here, this was proposed in 2015 and the fix was done in 2016. I'm sure you all have heard about this case because it gave us sleepless nights, everyone, when this happened. And why does it even matter? Why do we even talk about these issues? Because known vulnerabilities are where the attackers are there. They can weaponize and use these exploits against hundreds and thousands of targets. And the time window is very short. Okay, there is a vulnerability notification that comes out, there is a release that is there, and then it is available on exploitdb how you're going to exploit it. At the same time, how quickly you fix it, it is important. If it's a critical one for your environment, you need to prioritize, you need to understand how it's going to be fixed. And remember one thing, while we talk about all of this, when the Equifax breach happened with the Apache Struts version, it was not the problem just with the Equifax. I think they became the target, but then it was with a lot of organizations that they were using. And the main point was we can't blame Apache because every open source ecosystem, they come up with releases and it's our responsibility to patch them. I know there is a patching cycle. There are tests that needs to be done, but we need to understand that which applications are using this particular version. At that point, I could see organizations going crazy over finding out which applications are using this particular version so that they can fix it. And and when that becomes a challenge, where we don't have the right application library, when we don't have the ecosystem where we are tracking all of these things, could be a CMDB, then it will be very difficult at the time of release of these 0-day vulnerabilities or the crazy vulnerabilities or critical vulnerabilities. Now, all of this looks interesting, but then how about someone actually compromise maintainer's account? So when we are all so much very dependent on these open source softwares, we can't ignore the question of where do we put our trust, and what are the mitigations technique and security controls to cope up with the risks involved. Now, let me go ahead and share a research. So in 2017, a security researcher working on the whole Node.js Foundation, or part of the Node.js Foundation, conducted a research in which the person wanted to assess the security or state of weak credentials. Now, this person came up with this data. So the security researcher was able to gain or publish access to 14% of the ecosystem. And it is not just with the ecosystem of NPM.js or JavaScript or Java, but any system. So the problem was rooted with insecure passwords. And who used it? Very well-known maintainer accounts. And we these days talk about multi-factor authentication. The first thing is that we consider our password as our toothbrush. Do we use it a low quality one? We don't. We never, because it's our oral hygiene. We want to make sure that when we brush our teeth, they're clean and they are healthy. Correct. Now comes a point that if we have an insecure password or a password that can be used by multiple people, can we use the toothbrush? No. So always consider your passwords as your toothbrush. It has a good entropy to a long one, or it's a passphrase so that you can remember, or use a password manager. Like, I have a habit of using a password manager. There are so many wonderful password managers which are there, because I am a person, I keep forgetting my passwords. That's a big challenge for me. Now, so in January 2021, last year itself, it was discovered the sudo vulnerability, which is a common utility installed on many Linux distributions, has a security vulnerability. Now, what was that? Any unprivileged user can gain access or root access on a vulnerable host using a default sudo configuration. And the vulnerability itself has been hiding in the plain sight for over 10 years, like a whole 10 years, a decade. Does it impact people? It impacts people. As and when it comes, let's look at it. Let's discuss it. There are so many wonderful communities. WeAreDevelopers is a huge community for developers. Let's discuss them. It was not all. Then comes supply chain risks, which impact everyone. So can we really deny being part of the open source ecosystem? No. And as consumers, as contributors, and maybe even as maintainers, we all play some part in the world where 90% of the application code is made up of open source. Like, that's a huge part. That actually brings us to a point that what happened when maintainers removed their own libraries. This is exactly the story which happened in 2016 when a maintainer named Azhar pulled tens of his open source packages from npm.js. One of them was very pivotal package in the ecosystem. Failing to download it now resulted in the outage, breakage of CIs and install processes. Now that was like a little while ago, right? But let me tell you, just in January, around January 5th to 8th, there are two very famous libraries in JavaScript and Node.js ecosystem with the named Collar and Faker. Similar story, maintainer of the account pulls his hand off, and there, what happens with the new release creates or update it with a loop condition. Now, anyone who starts using this package or execute the package, they're getting denial of service. Do you think it's crazy? It is. Now, the person is the maintainer of the account, and everybody is like talking about it. Suddenly, what's happening? And the same story with Faker. With the updated version, remove the code from the repo itself. Now the maintainer mentioned that I needed support and couldn't get one. This is natural, but then what it teaches us, we need to understand that the weakness is in the business. When we are using these open source ecosystems, we have to keep a track of it. And it's on anyone and everyone. And how registries or how people did not see these things coming. These cases have been there, and suddenly people see this happening. What should we do? And what is inside these registries? What kind of malicious activities are happening? How can we track them? How exactly more and more malicious packages hitting the ecosystems? And when we talk about JavaScript, Java, Node.js ecosystem, even on March 2021, more than 3,000 malicious packages were published on the PyPy registry. Like, that's a huge number. And these packages, if we have to show the number or show us how attackers can harness these open source for their own advantage. There is a research that was published how exactly exploitation was done. And it did not impact just the small, medium business, but the enterprises, the very well-known companies. This brings me to a point. Are we going to have less or more security in the future? More software in the future? More open source software in the future? It's a food for thought. Now comes a point, while we are dealing with all of that, did you hear about Log4j? I am sure a lot of you checked about it. A lot of you were just struggling to figure out where Log4j came from, how exactly things were spanning across Log4j. I'm sure you were part of updating those files and you were changing all of that. And that became a huge issue, right? Now, let me tell you something very interesting, especially about Log4j. So here, if I talk about Log4j, how it all started, and especially if I have to talk about maintainers, what happened with maintainers, wherein they were using this ecosystem. They were using this logging framework, and it is a very, very famous logging framework. Now, with this logging framework, people were able uh, to play around, to do a lot of things. Now, many computer administrators have to work over the weekends because the security or severe vulnerability was discovered in the piece of software, which is widely known or used by the companies and the organizations. So the problems show that that we partially depend on the work of unpaid volunteers for the cybersecurity. So the software is called Log4j, and which helps the computer to store all kinds of information in so-called log files. The vulnerability has now been given the name Log4Shell, and according to the National Cybersecurity Center, it's a very, very serious vulnerability. And after a month, we can still say that yes, it is a big one for all of us. Now, what is it all about? Sorry. So website administrators like to keep all kinds of information in the log files. And we all agree, like, we want to do that. Long list with, for example, information about website visitors, IP addresses, browser timing. So such information help them to analyze the failure of cyber attacks and even any kind of attack that is happening on them. But what if an outsider, the website user, manipulates the process? Would you like it? I wouldn't like it. So, for example, he or she does not send browser information to the server, or they don't send browser information to the server, but a piece of computer code. Like, there's no file exists, but then you are able to put on a file. So the log file is then its gateway to the server, right? I can execute anything. In the worst case, the outsider takes control of the computer server itself. Could be next step installation of a ransomware where you can take you actually zip everything and then tell the organization, oh, I want money. If you want to get access to your own server, you have to pay the money. Would you like it? I wouldn't like it. Absolutely, I wouldn't like it. So the risks in this therefore play a very, very big role for Log4j, which is written in computer language Java. And that's why we are talking about different scenarios. And I want to emphasize that the situation is very, very serious. Java specialists at the cybersecurity companies or even the normal companies, they're all warning from across the industry that people are actually looking to exploit these vulnerabilities. So what we say, recommend that we update our applications to the latest version. The computer game Minecraft has urged users of the Java version to use a newer version. And it allows users to chat with each other because we use it. And according to many other companies or the website, news forum, cybersecurity news forum, companies like Apple, Amazon, Twitter, Synk, IBM, everyone, they're saying this vulnerability has to be updated. Now, it is a public software that is maintained by volunteers. The same point comes back. Among them, there are many users who are sitting or volunteers sitting around the world. People continue to lash out on the Java ecosystem. Is it their problem? No, they're trying to help the ecosystem. They're trying to help people. At the same time, if we see a vulnerability, instead of blaming someone, let's start using or updating it. Now, let me tell you one more important thing. When this happened, there was a huge impact because it was multi-million-dollar security architecture and suddenly goes for a toss. And there's a huge thing happened, and there were many iterations which were there. Something with the H2 database again came, and this Jindy attack was literally making everyone to the halt. Now, why were we even talking about it? Because there are regulatory compliance failures, there are cloud security compliance failures, and there are third-party SaaS application security failures. All of this, you're not using this particular version, you're not using this, but the vendor that you have is using it for remote, and suddenly you see remote code execution happening, remote server controls being taken over, and insider threats being increased. How would you even take care of it? This someone's credentials gets compromised or somebody gets compromised because of it. Now, what happens next? Deploy. Somebody might be able to deploy ransomwares, malwares, even take over the complete server and start showcasing anything that they want. Exfiltrate the data about all the users. That's like data is the new oil. If it spills somewhere, you can't collect it back. It is not easy. Data is super important. And what happens if it's lost? Loss of data integrity, loss of availability. And what happens? So many services which keeps on running here and there. Log4j is very, very popular. It's found in direct, but mostly transitive steps. And why I'm even talking about Log4j now? Because it is something which is very, very critically used. And this Log4j is being used in many, many places. So I urge that we start working on and understanding it. So let me go ahead and do one thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say awesome list of Log4j. There is so at Sneak Labs, people have actually created a list of this, including myself. I'm one of the contributor. Even you can contribute, where we've put in a content around what this vulnerability is all about. Are there any videos? Are there any vulnerable softwares? How do you detect it? The discussions, proof of concepts, even memes, and who have contributed. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my screen and show it to you so that you can go back and check and probably probably go back and check out that how exactly you can work around with it. Now, let me go ahead and go back to my next slide and see what do we have. Oh, that's amazing. That's my favorite part. Wherein, instead of all the theory and gyan, we're learning something new. Now, let me go back to my command shell. or here. Now, what I really want to tell you about an ecosystem. Now, what that ecosystem is. So in that ecosystem, I use a simple Express framework, which is using a certain library. And that library, if I have to showcase, let me just move my Visual Studio Code and show it to you. And okay, it's here. Already, okay. Now here, I am using the simple index.js. So this is a simple dependency that you see on the screen. Now, this dependency, what it is. So this dependency says that I'm going to be using Express framework and I'm going to be running the app on the port 3000. There's a sanitization function that I'm using, and if there's any string which is a scripting tag or single quote or double quote, I'm going to be escaping it with ampersand amp or and lt and gt. Now there's a sanitization function. Now why do we even use it? We use it to make sure that we are we are not vulnerable to cross-site scripting, which I was talking about. So no one can execute a script. Now, why will they do it? So for example, there's a blogging software and we all visit there. We all read a lot of blogs or an article by a very well-known person. But the application where the person's blogs are there, it is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. So a person gets to know. They put in a script on this person's post, and anyone who checks out this post, the script gets executed and they get vulnerable. Could be a ransomware gets downloaded or a malware gets downloaded, or they take all their cookies so that they can play around with the session. Does this look scary? I get scared. A lot of organizations don't see cross-site scripting as a big issue, but it still play a very big role. And now, if with this particular library, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open a new tab and I'm going to zoom. Okay. Now here, I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my goof and I am going to go to my Express system. Now here, let me see what I have. I just have a single file, single dependency. And what I really want to show you that how critical it will be when a single library itself poses a greater risk. So here, when I have this index.js, I'm sure you want to see what is there in this open index, in this index.js file. Now, one second, let me open it here. Or I think it's here, open it. So this is what was there. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and say node index.js and it will start running on port 3000. Now, let me go ahead and see localhost. I hope the demo goes shower their blessings on me and I'm able to use it. Now here, what I am trying to do is it's running on localhost port 3000 with a parameter, and it's actually taking the input as a script. But remember, there's a sanitize function. So here, sanitization worked. If I go back to my terminal, where is it? Okay, so here, sorry, this is my terminal. Now, while it's running, there is one important thing I want to show you. Here, now, it was in the form of a string. I'll convert it to array. That's what I was saying. That sometimes the demo gods don't shower their blessings on me and it doesn't work out. Let me go ahead and cancel it and try again and see how it works. All right. So it is not working. It is giving me an error. And let's see what is the error. But I have a backup. Let me go ahead and back to my screen. And I recorded a video just before this session if something goes wrong. So here are the projects that I'm talking about, where we have the sanitization function. And we are using this rec query in the Express framework. And it is, remember, it is not the problem in this rec query, it's the way we take the inputs. It's the way we handle the inputs. It's how we are taking care of the inputs from the user. Why does it go here and there? Okay, now it talks about the sanitization functions which are there, which is which is actually giving -1. If it finds it, it is going to escape it. Now, what I really want to do is, oh, why is it happening? Sorry about that. So, why is it moving here and there? Okay. Now, here, this all is escaped. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just open this. And here, if you see, this is an array instead of a string. So here, this is I created as an array. But when it was string, it did not get replicated. I can add multiple things to it. I can add multiple arrays. I can modify it. I can make sure that I keep changing the inputs. Now, if you see, without the array, it did not get replicated because it was working as the normal function. But with the array, it was not able to sanitize what we wanted. So it is very important to define the input, the kind of parameters, the kind of input that will be coming from the user. It is very, very important. Now, let me tell you that what we really need to do here. Or if you want to try it yourself, I can share the script and you can try it yourself. You just need to run it locally and that will be all. So let me share a file with you. I'll just share this index.js file so you can replicate it yourself. And I'll post a link in my chat box. So let me go ahead and create a link. Okay. I'm going to create new folder. So I will say WeAreDevelopers. So what I'm doing right now, I'm creating a folder for you so that you can access the file and I can share the access with all of you. Okay, my browser. Okay, here. Okay, so here we have created WeAreDevs. I am going to go ahead and upload a file, which is index.js file, or the whole folder itself. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my goof, and I'm going to upload this Express framework. Okay, I'm uploading. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and share with all of you. Share. I'm going to go ahead and share with, no, share with anyone with the link. You will be able to view it. Done. Now let me go ahead and share with the right link. And I'm going to share it in the chat box so that you can download it. And you can start executing it. It is very, very simple. Just download it and this will replicate, keep replicating. Okay, I'm going to put my thing here while it is working. So it is easy where we can see here that when we were using as a string, it was not working. But when we start using as an object, as an array, it started executing and we can see on the screen itself. And this seems to be a very, very small vulnerability, but then it plays a very, very big role, like a single dependency. How many people they would be using it? How many people would not be defining the kind of input that will be going to the user? Correct? Now, let me go ahead and give you the link for the Express framework as well, so that you can go back and check. Now, in this case, before I give you, I want to mention that I want you to try it. Why? Because this JavaScript type confusion, in particular, we see with many or a lot of applications, but we tend to miss on it. Now here, we played around it on the terminal. Now, why this behavior happened? So the reason is because the user input is coming from a source, that it's not always a string. So when an input is coming from a source, let's define how exactly it will be processed. And in this case, the user input came from rec query, that according to the documentation itself, if you go back in official documentation, it's not always a string. So if it's not a string, whatever we do, it is going to change it. So if we rely on some methods that are both defined as strings and array, so those methods could be index of, last index of, includes. So we need to sanitize the user input and the input that is coming from the sources that are not always strings. So let's be very mindful of it, because if we're not mindful, then this could lead to unexpected behavior like this and potentially bypass all our sanitization functions. So if you want to know more about it, there is a blog that is written, and I can share the link for the blog as well. Let me go ahead and type it in the chat box. Or if you give me 1 minute, what I'll do is I actually log in to the discussion that is happening online and and join you and share my links that I'm sharing on the chat box, because I want you to experience these things, because I have a demo for Log4j also, which I want you to try. It is very, very important to try these things so that you understand it well, that where things are going wrong. And at the same time, how exactly you can play around with it. Now, I'm here on the screen. In a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I think I can see myself on stage. Let me mute myself so that you don't hear a lot of noise from my side. Okay. My name is this. I accept, join. Right. Oh, thank you so much. I can see the links being shared. So, perfecto. Thank you so much, team. I was just worried about if they are getting all the information. Thank you so much. Now, I'll come back to my screen. Here, this was a simple example. Now, do you want to see the Equifax breach? Let me go back to my browser and show you. Where is my browser? Okay, it's here. Now, in the browser, I'm going to go ahead and say Java Goof. So I'm using this Java Goof where there's a particular version of Apache that I'm using. I'm giving you just a hint of it. And I hope my Goof works. Like I said, sometimes the demo goes don't shower their blessings, but a lot of times it has worked in the past, so I'm hopeful. So what I'm doing is I have hosted an application on a cloud environment, and there's a backend that I'm using. And especially if I talk about this application, it's a to-do list application, because we all live by calendar these days. We all take care of everything via calendars. Like, I'm a huge fan of calendars, but then suddenly I see that there's so much which is changing. There's so much which is different, and um, and I also see that there are issues that are there. So what should I do in that case? Now the point comes is that let's go ahead and sign up, because I don't want to forget where my sessions are, or what do I need to do in the upcoming few months or upcoming few weeks. So that seems nice, because I don't have to remember everything. This to-do list will help me. So I'm going to go hit the sign up. So here I am part of WeAreDevs, and I am part of, I'll say WeAreDevs, a demo. Always keep a strong password. It's just a demo. Sign up. And I don't want to save the password. So I use a password manager. You can use any password manager. Here, as part of this app, I have certain things: home, my account, create a to-do list, upload files, and my files from where I can actually see all these files. Now, why am I actually showcasing everything because this is my habit. Whenever I join any new website, I always try and understand what this is, or how exactly application behaves, or what are the different things that are there on the website. I'm sure we all do. Like, especially if you think about social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, anything that we join, we always make sure that we learn about their features. And even when we join when we get a new project, we always try and learn about that application. So here, all of these things are there. But what I do want to do, I want to create a to-do list. So let me go ahead and say, Vandana, I'm going to create a to-do list for this date, and I'm going to say low, and it is created. Like, my to-do list is created. Create to-do list. I want to do that. We are devs workshop that I need to give. And when do I need to do it? I'll say January 26th, and I'll create it as a high priority for me because I want to give a workshop. I want people to understand it. I want people to go through it. So, um, find vulnerabilities like this one. Okay, so there's a question before I go ahead and get more into this. So, how do you actually find vulnerabilities like this one? So, especially if I talk about a Synk, there's a research team which keeps finding these vulnerabilities. But the vulnerabilities which are disclosed in public, there's a database which is ExploitDB. And let me go ahead and share the link. So you can find most of the vulnerabilities listed on the ExploitDB, and how you can replicate them, how you can play around with them. The proof of concept would be there. So it'll be easy for you to understand how it is. So I go to ExploitDB. There are many security news organizations which keep sharing from like Threat Post, Bleeping Computer, Hacker News. Many news platforms are there which recorded future, which keeps sharing the security news. Even Synk has a vulnerability database where they keep updating it as and when they find it. They keep releasing it. The JavaScript type confusion, that was by the research team. I totally love the research. Now there's something around GraphQL is also happening, around IoT devices is coming up. So it's so much fun. Like, and it's not just rely on one source, but like ExploitDB, one hub is amazing. You can actually try and understand these, and you can do it in the demo environment. Like, I do it. I keep till the time I don't give my do my hands dirty on this, I don't understand. So Hub is like one great place to check out these things and exploit DB. Let me give you the URL for Hub as well. So, which is like the hub for all the vulnerabilities. Now, coming back to this topic, now when I created the to-do list, it got created. Now I'm like wearing an attacker hat. So I'm going to go and put a character which is not alphabet or number. So I'm using pi. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and create a to-do list with low priority. When I create this list, wherein pi has changed to an ASCII character, if you see, this change brings me to a point I can play around with something. I can actually try and play around and see if I can bypass something. But at the same time, let me go ahead and check more about the application. Now, when I go to About, see the homepage. It says some information about GitHub repo, to license, to Struts version, to Spring Framework, to Hibernate. But do you see something at fishy with this? Okay. Struts 2 2.3, Struts 2 2.3 exploit. Okay, let's search. There are so many people who have posted things. Let me go ahead and check this. Now, if I come here, the whole exploit is listed here. And if I check this vulnerability, this is a CVE number. So let's search and read more about it. So people were analyzing and playing around with it. And now I don't know why it says 2017. So CVE associated with Equifax breach. Let's see. Do you see it's the same one? Interesting. So what I know now is this application is vulnerable to this particular flaw. And I have everything available. People are listing things and there are exploits available. So as a security person, as the person who wants to attack things, now I'm wearing a black hat. Like I'm playing both the roles here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a to-do list with, no, let's go ahead and upload some files instead of creating a to-do list. So I'm going to go ahead and upload some files. Now what those files are, here in my goof itself, I have a small Java goof where I have some exploits. So everyone, like I talked about, exploit DB. And if I come here, there's a zip slip. Now I am uploading the zip file. It has an exploit which I just showed from the internet, but I've modified it to be a less impact one. So I'm going to go ahead and upload it. Now it's uploaded. But when the file is uploaded, I can see only good.txt. So what happened to my exploit? The remote code execution, because if you come back here, this is part of a vulnerability where people are saying that it's a remote code execution vulnerability. It has impacted so many people. The whole information is out there online. What do we do? So let's see. Now, I think I felt that it is not executed. Maybe the demo gods did not shower their blessings on me. So here, let's say Vandana is not a hacker. Okay, I'm creating this to-do list and creating. Where is it? Vandana is not a hacker. If you see here, that has changed to gotcha. So can I say that I'm a hacker? Like, I love being called as a hacker. That's a big term. So there could be bad hackers, there could be good hackers. So I want to be a good one for my organization and for the community. So I'll say Vanna is a hacker. That also didn't come here. Now here what I did, I used this remote code execution vulnerability and I played around with it and I could do the remote code execution. I wanted it to be less impactful because I just wanted to showcase as part of the demo. But then there are cases where Apache vulnerability, actually you could play around within the app. Now, when you were able to play around within the app, so how tricky that would be, right? Like you can manipulate the user input, you can play around with it, you can do anything. So let me come back to my screen while everybody sees that. I'll just see the chat box. Would be cool to have an event showing how the research team works. Absolutely, we would share that. And I think Melina will be helping us with that event. So you can reach out to Melina and she'll help out. Was this really a to-do list MVC? So this is just a demo app that has been created and just to play around with it. Let me see if I can share the code of it so that you can host it on Heroku or anywhere that you want to do. But before that, we still have like good time to play around with the apps. I have shared I've shared the code for that in the VR devs for the previous vulnerability. Now, what I really want you to do is I want you to understand more about the Log4j vulnerability or Log4Shell or Jindy attack, whatever you call it as. Now, I'm going to go ahead and post something very, very interesting in the chat box. So here from the labs, I have figured out this thing. Okay. So here is the goof that I want you to look at. Yeah, I know about YubiKey and I use it for certain critical applications, but it's on you what you use. Like I use passphrases, I use password manager, but for certain things, I have used YubiKey as well. Even I use it for especially identity systems. I'm happy to give away a few of the first people. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Malena. Okay, now I've just posted something where it is the Java goof that I have. I hope you are able to see that. And while I load my screen, let me tell you what it is. Oh, there is an update that my team did just 11 hours ago, but it will still work. Let me tell you. Okay, so here, this is the whole. Oh, let me see why. Just type in the chat box if you can see my screen and the goof opened, or you are able to open this goof, Java goof, because I want you to get your hands dirty. I'm gonna go slow, nothing fast. I speak a lot. I can speak up, and I love seeing all your chats in the chat box. So keep typing, keep posting, keep asking questions. Okay, and I hope you are able to see it. So now what I'll do is I'll show you what I did. I just went ahead and downloaded it, like just the zip file that I've downloaded it. So I'm gonna go ahead, download, and or you can do one thing. Like I love using the command line. So generally what I do is, let me clear my screen so that you can see it. Here, I'm gonna do CD, I'm gonna reach out to my desktop, and here I'm gonna go ahead and create a let me go ahead and do this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this repo. Where is it? Okay, here. So here, okay, here I'll go to CD. Let me see what I have, because I have so many folders, man, literally. Here I can go to log4j exploit and see what I have here. Oh, I have a lot of things. Now here I'm going to go ahead and do the git pull or git clone. Sorry, git clone, not git pull. Sorry, my bad. So here I'm cloning this Java goof. Now, while it's happening, I also want you to try it so that you can download it. Now, while it's getting downloaded, I want to do one thing. I'll just go ahead and clean my repo. Let it be. Let me go ahead and do it on my other system. Okay. I think it's going to take a few more. Oh, perfect. It is done. So I'm going to give you some more time to go ahead and try it. Okay. 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 Let me see. So I changed the name to devs and I removed all the other folders so that it's not confusing. For you, it'll be Java goof only. Now it's for developers, so I just changed it. So let me know if you are able to download it and it's all fine for you, because then only I'll move forward. And I believe that you are able to download it. Perfect. It works. Now, there's a disclaimer that I want to give you. It works on certain Java versions, especially before 11, or generally it works on most of them, but then there are certain recommendations on certain versions which are vulnerable. So I am going to be using JDK 11. I'll tell you which Java version I'm using, and I can tell you from where you can put it in. So I'm going to put it in the chat box, the direct link for OpenJDK or JDK JavaNet, sorry, JDK JavaNet. Now, let me show you the screen also. So I flip around the screen a lot, but I'll try and go slow. Does it work on 17? It doesn't. I tried on 17. It was not working, but it's just that certain versions with a particular versions it worked. Let me say share the list where it is working. Awesome list. Awesome. list. Okay. And especially if I talk about this vulnerable version, it is working on certain versions of it. Like specifically, if I go to log4shell goof, it is going to work on 11 version, and at the same time, it works on 8U, so that there are certain versions which are given. Like you need, let me put the requirements there. That which one? Because there are multiple exploits which have come. Yep. So here, these are the versions that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using Java SDK, this one. Because yesterday I tried on 17, it was not working. So I went back to this, where I will say 11. And 11 also, I went and tried GA. So this version. So you can download this one. So I downloaded this one, which is, if I show you, it is there on my desktop as well. Okay. Okay. Here comes. Okay. Here I'm using this JDK 11. I have all the content here. I have home directory. I have Mac OS. Now, this is the version that I wish you to download so that we don't play around with our own system. But here we actually just want to see the demo for this particular vulnerability while we are here on the screen. So let's go ahead and download this version that I just gave you the link in the chat box. So go to this archive, go to Java 11 GA, and then based on your operating system, start downloading so that we can define the directory. Now here I am on my desktop, and if you look at the down, oh, I think this screen seems to be very small, and it is on my desktop. It is in the JDK folder, and then I have a home folder because I want the path of that particular folder. So here from the home, I'll go ahead and copy my path. Okay. I hope all of you are able to use it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the server. I'm going to terminate it. I'm going to go back to my terminal here. Now I have Java devs. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my Java goof. I'm going to come here. Now here I have to install Maven. I have to do a clean install for Maven. I'm going to put the same script here. So this is my system. So the command that I'm giving you is for my system. Wherever you download this, wherever you download Java, you have to copy the repository the way I did it, the path of that repository. You can type it in the chat box if you're facing any issues. I'm going to go ahead and start installing. So I'm going to go hit Maven clean install. I'm going to be using Java home. I am work and not able to follow the coding part. Can I try it out later? Absolutely. The video is recorded and I think it will be shared later. And oh yes, you can use it. Tina says something. Yes, absolutely. I'm just trying to be more relaxed with it, be more simple with it. You can try anything. It's just that I wanted to teach it in a way that share the information in a way that is simple for people to follow through, because it's all virtual. And if I am sitting there in the whole hall, I can play around with it. Yeah, team says that it's on demand available. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hit clean install. But make sure when you use Java home, it's in caps. And the most important thing is, where is it? Oh, it's installing. So let it install, and then I'll share the command again. Now, if you see on this, you have to make sure that you use the link or the download place of the Java version, the one that you have downloaded. And when I share here, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go away after the session. You can reach out to me on my LinkedIn, on my Twitter, anywhere. I'll be happy to assist you in any way possible, even after the coding session is done. Now here, the whole thing is done. I have installed it under the Java goof. My clean install is done, and I can see the build is successful. And I'm going to go ahead and clear it. Okay, clear. Now the Maven is installed. See what is there. I can see all of these files are there. So under these files, what do I really need to do? I'll wait for a few more seconds before I go ahead and move to the next step. Okay. I assume you are able to follow through. At least you are able to see if you're not able to replicate, but understand it. I'm going to go to log4shell. Now, why there are so many goofs? Because it is impacting Kubernetes, it is impacting multiple other things. And the Java to-do list, if you see the to-do list goof, that's also listed here itself. Now, I'll go to the Java goof. Now, under that, what all files do I have? I have a README file, I have a pom.xml, and I have a log4shell for client and a server. And that's how communication happens. Whoa, I can thank you, Tina. You're able to install. Anyone has any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat box. I can see screen. I'm working on 2 monitors just for this so that everyone is able to follow through. Now, while I am in the goof, I hope all of you are able to see the goof if you have downloaded. I presume yes. Now let me go ahead and move to the next step. Here, I think, let me come here and see what I have here on the command terminal. Okay. Here, if you see, I am able to, okay, this is my old one. Let me go ahead and clear it. So I was just testing before this call so that I'm not messing out. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to run a server. So what I really want to do is, before even running the server, I want to use the same Java command. And instead of using clean install, because I've already installed Maven, I'm going to run a different command. My terminal, I'll try later. No issues. You can try later. The recording would be shared with you so that it is easy for you. Now here, I'm going to use a certain command. Make sure while I share all these commands, you keep them with you. It is there even in the goof, I think, when you check out the goof, but it's just that there were few steps which I wanted to be very particular about, because when I was trying it, it was failing in the first go because I did not run it on the root directory. So here, if you see, I'm going to use this particular command. So the first of all, Java home, because I want to specify the Java directory. And then I want to run this command, maven exec Java, so that I can run this on this particular goof. Now, where do I want to run it? Did I select server? No, I did not. I'm going to hit Control C. Okay, sorry, Control W. It's going to clear Control W. Control W. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and go to CD log4shell server, because I want to run the server first. Now in the server, I want to run this particular command because I want it to run. I want it to run on a certain port. So here it started running. Oh my God. Already in use. Okay, very bad, very bad, very bad. Okay, give me 1 minute. Let me play around with it and see if I can run here. Okay. So here I was able to run, and let me see if I can run it again here. No. So that's what happens when you try before the session and it gets stuck. Demo gods. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me change the port numbers of the code and see if it works. But yeah, you just have to run this command and it should work. As simple as it sounds. Already. Let me go to server. Let me go to source, main, Java. Okay, I'm trying to terminate the open port so that we can try on the same one. Give me 1 second. While I'm doing that, please go ahead and try yourself. So what I do is I always try before any session certain things, and that's what happens to me. Like the port stops working, and I was thinking just that. So let me go ahead and kill it and try it. Now, what all ports it was using? Let me come back to my own screen. It was using port number 9999 and 8000 because LDAP server is running on 9999. So let me go ahead and kill that. Okay, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to find the port number as 9999. Okay, 9999. All right, let's start. Okay, perfect. I'll just do that. I hope you all are able to download it while I'm killing my ports. Okay, let me try again if it works. Okay. Java home JDK 7. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So I just use a simple command to kill my ports, npx kill port 8000 and 9999. So the server is running now. Let me go back and go to the client. So here cd desktop. I know you can't see it. Let me just increase the font as well. And cd java goof ls. I have this cd log for shell goof clear. I want to go to client now. Client, right? So my server is running, my client. Now for the client, I want to do the same thing. I need to run Java command that I was mentioning, which I share. Because when server is running, I need to run the client. But before running the client, I want to have a very clear check on ls-l if the temp pond is there. So this is a file which I wanted to be created. So this is a file which currently is there. So let me go ahead and remove it. rm-rf temp pond. So here, let's go ahead and run this command and see if the file exists. So it does not exist. As a client, you don't see that file. You don't, and what you want to do is you want to be an attacker. You want to be there. You want to exploit it. I play around with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run the command is Java 1, where I want to run the just exec command and see what happens. If you see, the build is success. Now, there is an error test which it passed because this temp pond does not exist. Now, do you want to see whether it exists or not now? Now, I'm a client. I'm playing around with the server. Okay, it exists. So here, the funny part is that it seems to be simple, but I just use the pond. Like I pond you or I pond the server. New port is 6660. Okay, perfect. So David says that now I use this port because I wanted to play around with it. But then you can use any other port. You can change the code base because you have the whole goof access. You can play around with it. It seems to be like I just created a small temp pond for file. But if that file contains a ransomware or some executables, how cool that would be. Trust me, the first time I found a SQL injection and a command injection, that was the one of the most happier days. Oh, I found a big one. I could delete pictures from that particular application. I could upload a command shell and play around with that. It was superb. But at the same time, when I sat with all my developer friends, I realized I need to tell them that these are the things how it will be done. Because if I don't tell them, how would they get to know? And especially when we talk about these shift left things, these seem to be difficult, very, very taxing. And at the same time, we all have to do it because we don't have a choice. It's just that as part of our job. And we don't want to see anyone attacking our feature, anyone attacking our applications. And I hope all of us agree to the same thing because we want the best for our organizations. And we don't want these Java these vulnerabilities which are there in our ecosystem. Could be around containers, could be around Git, could be around Azure. We don't want it. I don't want it personally. I am sure all of my people who code, they don't want it. What can we do? We can make sure that we have such kind of sessions where all of us are asking questions. Never ever shy away in asking questions. It is very, very important. Like one by one, ask any question. Trust me, when I was working on this goof, it went down multiple times. And today also, you saw that whole thing. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. My goof was failing. But then I realized there always a workaround. So for the first one, I created I created a video file yesterday itself because I don't want like you are not able to see the goof. No, you should be able to see all these attack vectors, be it recorded, be it I show you live like we just did it for that. Even this goof actually created an issue because just before the session I was playing around with it, so I knew that port is going to be giving me hard time. And I also will try and go back to the same Node.js or JavaScript ecosystem file, which was an issue on the port 3000, because we're going to kill the port and we're going to try it. Now, let me come back to my presentation. But before that, anyone has any questions about it? I'm going to give you a few seconds while I sip a glass of water and sip some water where you post it in the chat box. I would want you to ask as many questions as you can. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat box, or while I talk about it, maybe I'll see more of these coming up. Okay. And while I do that, let me go ahead and kill port 3000 also. Okay, perfecto. It is there. Now let me come back here. So I actually love working on the terminal than just sharing. How dangerous is SQL injection if you have a nice validation on server side? Trust me, SQL injection is crazy, David. It is crazy. And not just SQL injection, but injection. These vulnerabilities, these remote code executions are very, very crazy. They're part of this whole injection system. And for over 10 years, not 10 years, oh my God, why am I saying no? 20 years, like 20 years is a big time. If you go back and check OWASP top 10 list, let me share the link. And OWASP top 10 injection has been topping the charts, literally. But then this year in last year, in September, the new list came out. Then we could see the change. We could see where injection went down to third. And suddenly we see again coming, I'm sure it's going to come up again. So if you see here, it is here. And then Melina has shared beautiful list of the cheat sheet. I totally love it. And Synk actually created a beautiful list of OWASP top 10, which you can actually check out. And thank you so much, Melina, for being there and for being so helpful. And you can actually go through this. Now, one important thing that I want to share with you, when this has been there for a very long time, like 20 years, and there was a funny discussion there, which is not actually not funny, on the internet, where I was seeing that people were saying that OWASP top 10 had SQL injection or injection on top for over 20 years. We have seen it, we have grown old with it, and even our kids, when they grow up, they will also see these things. Why? Because when we talk about validations, we have the best of validations, trust me. But then there are new products that are coming up, new databases that we are coming up with. So it is first thing is to understand our own ecosystem and then go ahead with it. Then go ahead and use it. Now I'll come back to my demo and show you the first demo that I showed you recorded. Let me go to desktop. Now under desktop, I have a goof, I have Express, and I have this file. Perfect. I'm going to go node index.js, and it is running. Perfecto. It's running on the localhost 3000. So I'm going to go back to my browser. Where is my browser? Sorry about this. And so many tabs. So I'm going to go to localhost, and I'm going to go ahead and show you this thing. Does it work? It works beautifully, but the cross-site scripting does not or is not there. Now I'll just wait here for a few seconds and let you process this information. That we don't see anything, even though we had put the whole parameters. But now, as I mentioned, I changed the source to an array, and it is executed. Now I have executed one. Let me tell you one important thing. I always have used Hacked by Wendy. I hope it works. Do you see this? How cool this looks. I love it. If someone says hacked by me, oh my God, like I totally love it. So as an attacker, I would love it. But as a security person, as a supporter of developers, I wouldn't love it. What I really want to do is share with you that when we are taking inputs from the sources, let's define what source we want. And we need to have the right validations. And there are many validations files, the regular expressions that we can use that can help us. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I'm going to come back to my presentation because I am almost at the top of the time because I've been given 1.5 hours. We can spend 2 hours, but I need to make sure I complete my presentation. I love demos, but then let's come back to our presentation. Okay, where is it? It's here. Now, this whole thing, shift left, and especially the process of modern development has changed with more agile development and frequent integrations. And the way we develop or deploy our code. Earlier, few times a year, like a bottom-up model and everything good. Trust me, we had so many parties because we developed the code and then went out for parties. But now, many deployments in a month, in 6 months, in a week, in a day. Many organizations are deploying multiple times a day. So the culture and the team alignment of the whole modern development has changed from a siloed model of development, from building that to the more agile way. And at the same time, we're making sure that we are changing the whole paradigm. Like literally, we are changing the whole shift here. And the most beautiful part is that we are all getting accustomed with it. But the most important thing to remember is that these security flaws would be there if we don't put in the responsibility. And who is responsible for it? Not me, not you, but every one of us. And um, and one of my friends, Steve, says that the dev environment should be as such that the security person and the dev person, even if they are drunk or they are sleeping, they know where the issues are and they are able to fix it. And I totally believe it, and that's why I'm saying that here. But how can you get to know more about it? There are so many sneak blogs, sneak researches there. And then there is a huge community, which is OWASP, which is very close to my heart, Open Web Application Security Platform. They have so many wonderful projects that you can look at. And from dependency to application vulnerabilities, attackers are actually targeting open source ecosystem. When they target one app, one dependency, it does not impact only one person, but many organizations. Literally, application security is challenging. Why? Earlier we were only having our on-premise system ecosystem, which is fine. Now we have one foot in the open source dependencies, another foot in the cloud, or we have to shift to the cloud. We are using cloud, but we need to use open source. How do we balance out? So what if we have security which is easier, developer friendly and actionable? How equipped we are to find these vulnerabilities and fix it? If we have these running sessions, how cool that would be. You understand what is the issue, and you would say, oh, I know it, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to tell everyone that this is how it should be fixed, right? I'm sure half of you, or maybe most of you, would love these practices, open source security guidelines, these things which are there available, and going to share it with people. Open source is amazing. I totally love it, I totally respect it, but then let's use it responsibly. Now, there's a message for all of you. Let's become security champions. How can we do it? We can have a focal point. I have seen people who are from dev teams, architects, the project managers, even the testers, everyone becoming a focal point because they started to understand these things. And we can automatically scale the security team. Let me tell you who can be the best security person, who know the environment well, rather than me or anyone else. I might know the environment well than you because you're working on ground on that. And it actually makes us more influential. And we can get the executive sponsorship for our Security Champions program, which we're going to structure in a way where we have clearly defined activities. We have volunteer champions. We have security representation. We have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. We have perks for them. We have project management things. We have clearly defined cadence. We have reward and recognition, and we have measurable goals. All this helps the Security Champions program. Now, this used to be a meme wherein this is what happens to a security analyst. 0-day drops on Friday. Trust me, the Fridays are gone. But this is not the case anymore. The security champions are changing it. It happens with developers and everyone who's part of the whole CI/CD pipeline, who's part of the whole agile framework. And what does a security champion do? Support the ecosystem, but at the same time, follow the best practices. Takes the responsibility of understanding them. And when these issues are identified, triaged, they are actually mitigated or understand the risk. Who can be or who should be a security champion? Anyone, literally anyone. A developer, a DevOps manager, CI/CD pipeline manager, a security analyst, agile manager, or scrum master, and the person who has interest in learning something different, something new. Now, I'm going to stop here on my presentation, but I'm going to go and share some of the resources with you, which are very, very interesting, which are very, very amazing. Like, especially, I'm sure you want to run through your code with certain open source components. I'm sure, right? So Synk also has an open source component, which I'm going to give you here, which anyone can join, anyone can leverage. And what I have it on my screen is the documentation, which you can leverage and can play around with it. And here, Here you can actually see everything. If you're using open source, if you're using the native code, if you have a container, if you have an infrastructure as a code, everything can be scanned. And it is not like you have to have a paid license. No, you can join the open source ecosystem and start using it. So let me show you sneak.io. And login. So here it will take me directly to the login page. But for you, you'll have to register for it and you'll be all set to go, like literally all set to go. And you can play around with it. Now, there's a question. Um, mm, Let me go ahead and share. Oh, somebody is asking how they can reach out to me. So Malina has shared her details. You can reach out to her, or what you can do is you can connect with me on my LinkedIn platform, or I'll be very, very happy to answer any of your question, or you can reach out to my on my Twitter handle, where this is the thing. So you can reach out to me anytime. Now, let's come back to this thing. So here I can actually integrate Sneak with any of my existing ecosystem. Here in this ecosystem, I have multiple tools which are integrated, from Jenkins to GitHub to Bitbucket to Azure repos, and many other container registries which are there. I can run it on the Kubernetes as well. I can use it by CLI, TeamCity. I use Bitbucket pipelines also. I have Azure pipelines also. Yeah, Azure pipeline. I am running that. Oh no, come back, Vandana. Okay, I have Azure pipelines also running. I can show you. So here I have all of it. There are multiple IDs if you want to integrate it with Visual Studio Code, with Visual Studio, Eclipse, PyCharm, IntelliJ. I've integrated it with many platforms. So here you can do it and you can scan your code open source. You don't have to worry about anything. And all the documentation which I've shared, you can go through it. Now I'm going to take a pause here and I want you to ask as many questions as you want. So the stage is all open now. I'm waiting for the questions to come up. We did an OWASP assessment recently. It was fun and helped a lot. Do you recommend other similar assessments? See, OWASP top 10 list, if you've gone through it, it is just the top 10 risks. And underneath it, there are so many other vulnerabilities which are there, which I would suggest you going through it. So OWASP testing guide is a fun guide, which you can actually go through it and take a look at it. Like I believe that is going to help you a lot. How did I become a security champion? It was all a serendipity. Let me be very candid. Because when I joined the whole IT or tech world, security was not a job per se. I joined as a developer because that was the most fancy one. Like everybody said, be a Java developer, be a Java developer. Literally everyone was saying that. I want to be a developer. I want to be a Java developer. And that's how I landed my first job. But then within a year, that project was getting over. And we wanted to join certain projects. And there was a security project or cybersecurity project that was available. And I got interviewed for that. And by luck, or by chance or by serendipity, I got the job. And I realized it's so much fun. If we add security to the development, how cool that would be. And that went on and on. And in 2012, I actually got introduced to OWASP in a formal way. So OWASP was just a testing guide and a top 10 for me. But then I realized it's a big community. And I became part of it. And in 2015, 2015-16, I became a chapter lead for Bangalore. Then I started running diversity initiatives with them. In 2019, I got to be on their global board of directors. I filed for my nomination, won global board, and then it's been 2 years, third year in a row where I just won the election again because it's only two term and 2 years. So I just got again, and yesterday I got to be as a chair for the OWASP. So that's how I became a champion. I became an advocate about this. But yes, there's one amazing thing with Sneak is that I got to do what I really love to do: educate people, share the knowledge that I have, and learn from them. I'm sure there's so much more that you can share with me where I can learn from you. So that's my story, Alexander. Now, there's another question by David. Is security engineering most dangerous in security? Is social engineering? See, David, it depends. Social engineering, we all do in some way or the other. If I'm speaking with you today, and if you like my session, you might follow me on Twitter. You might share the LinkedIn request to me where you want to know more about, right? Now, when that happens, I am sure you want to connect with me, want to get to know more about me, how I am involved in security. So that's also social engineering. Or if we want to know about some person, we start finding them on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. That's also comes as part of social engineering. But how far do you go? Even social engineering is a proper area in the whole ecosystem altogether. So yeah, I think it's inbuilt in all of us. Boris, I would say every company, every organization is different. They have their own benefits. They're unique in some their own way. So I would say there are some things by some vendors, there are some things by Sneak which are amazing. So I would definitely ask you to go and check out Sneak, and that might help you instead of me saying anything. When I have all high regards for Sneak, so I don't want to say anything wrong for any organization. I'll be very, very honest. See, I'm going to be here, keep on sitting and speaking with you. I don't mind sitting another 15 minutes, half an hour, but you have to ask me questions. Okay, so there's a question. Do you react fast after 0-day attacks? Okay, yes, I do. But I always stay calm, even if there's a fire. It is important to understand what this 0-day attack is and whether uh, it is impacting you or not, and how much it is impacting your organization. So that is very important to understand and then react to it. Because if you understand that it's going to be impacting your organization, then you have to start all the change management, all the testing within the environment, and then start working on it. Because not every vulnerability might be applicable for your environment, and then you say, "Oh, it is there, right?" So it is very important to understand our own environment, and that's when you understand you have to react fast, you have to understand, detect fast, and then start working on it. So there's another question by David. What do you think about young hackers with Kali and pen testing tutorial? So the fun fact is that I also have been playing around with Kali a lot, and I still do it. I still pivot different systems, especially for my web app hacking training. I use Kali Linux with multiple tools installed, with some custom tools installed, some custom exploits from Exploit DB and Vulner Hub. I use it, and it is good to always be hands on. And the pen testing is just one area. But when you are a good pen tester, you need to know how to use these defensive techniques, how to fix them. It is very, very important. Because if you don't know how to fix it, how would you be a good software security person, right? Everyone can break the things, but how do you secure it? That's the charm. Okay, Paul. So Paul says, my team doesn't care about WebAppSec so much, but I do. How can I advocate? Trust me, show them these bugs and talk to them. They'll understand. First, you will scare them. Like everybody say, I scare people sometimes. But when I'm speaking with devs, I never try and scare. I tell them the solutions. I share the solutions with them, and that is more of advocating itself. And you would be able to influence it in a bigger way when you show the case studies, when you show the demos, when you show the POCs, that this is huge impacting. I was a tester before. Absolutely. You look at my profile. I've been a pen tester for many companies. I have had multiple roles. That's the fun fact. My journey has been very, very crazy in cybersecurity. When I joined as a network security person. I used to configure those hardware firewalls, and I was configuring those hardware scanners. Literally, used to go to the client locations via my first company and organization, and then in my second organization, I started working on IDS IPS. Then came my third company where they said, "Oh, we've hired you to be a SIM admin, a network security person, but then we want you to do the security testing on applications." And I was like, how will I do it? I left application development like long back, 5 6 years back. What I'm going to do? And they were like, you will learn. You understand the facts, so it'll be easy. It took me 3 months. Like I took 3 months, but I'm sure everyone can learn it easily. It is not, it's just that the pace that we want to learn. So after 3 months, I got my first project, and I just came out with it with so many vulnerabilities. So that was like flying colors, and and it was fun. And then I got introduced to cloud security, to project management, to product security, and just being a pen tester was fun. Exploiting those bugs and then explaining it to people that how it is being exploited, how we can fix it. Now, oh, okay, that's about me. Will testing and security grow together in the future? Yes, it will. There's nowhere it is like, even if you automate it, still there are so many things that we need to do. And even QAs. I have had people, I built the whole security team with all the QAs and developers. So you can imagine, because I was not finding people from outside. And I realized that when we hire from the security champions from the different teams, they can be the best gem. And trust me, they became the best team members for me. Oh, perfect. So there's a hands-on workshop on Sneak platform tomorrow. Do join it. So Varun has just shared the link with all of you. Thanks, Varun. Is Sneaks used for to secure containers? So what it is used for? It is used to test containers if there are any image issues, if there are any issues in your containers. And then you know where to fix the bugs. And that's how it is used. And the documentation that I shared here, it has all of the details that how Sneak container is used. Even the Sneak container security basics to how you can use it for container security, everything is listed over here. And yep, I'm checking my chat box for any further questions. Tina had a question. Should QA also be involved in issues? Yes. QA should always be involved in this, because when you test an application, how do you test it? You do the regression testing and many other on using Selenium and many other tools. So you are the best people when the application goes live. You can actually test it from the security perspective. Okay, there's another question by Nitin. How we can bridge the gap between certified people and knowledgeable people, as seen people are certified but not knowledgeable at all. See, certificates don't define person. It always defined by experience and It does not need to be like you have 15 years or 16 years of experience and you're knowledgeable. No, even if you have 5 years of experience, you can be a champion and you can bridge that gap. And Varun has shared a beautiful guide on security champions. If you go through that, that is one place which will give you a lot of information about that how and who can be a champion. Okay. So here, okay, there's another question. Do you think there should be some sort of liability for open source maintainer, or would it destroy the ideas of? See, how can you make someone liable? It is only the trust factor that comes in, right? So when the trust factor is there, um, I think that things thrive. But then there are times when people feel that we need more supporters, more volunteers, we need funding for the project. That's where the things started to fall apart if there are no fundings available. But we can't put anyone liable who's actually giving you something for free. We are growing because we are getting help from all these people. So it is just the ethical responsibility which is there. That's the only thing I can say. Okay, thanks, Varun, for answering the other question. Okay, I can see some more questions. Also see a few examples of people who walked the line. Oh, perfect. Establishing a security champions program. What do you think is good to go for CCNP security certificate? See, uh, if you want to learn CCNP, perfectly go for it. There is one thing that I would say. Certifications, if you're learning from them, it is good to do. I've personally done a lot of certifications with universities, with professional certification. Even just now, I completed my cyber law degree because I wanted to understand how law spans around cybersecurity. That was my second master's. But then comes to a point how much knowledge I'm getting out of it. That's the most important, David thing. Uh, there are many wonderful certifications which are there, so which you can go for. And even there's so much open source information on YouTube, on many other websites which are there, which is there, so which you can leverage. Okay, so there's Oscar says, is the session recorded? Absolutely. The session is recorded and will be shared with you, I think, within a week, as per my understanding. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Nathan. We still have 7 minutes. Please feel free to ask any questions.
Hey, Vandana, thank you so much for the presentation and the workshop so far. While we wait for other questions, let's. I saw a lot of questions about some personal stuff from like your career and so. And I have a question from my side. Like, when did you start to develop your passion actually for tech, but specifically then, as you said, like, was there like some click where you said, okay, I was now a tester, I need to become a security person? And what do you think how this role will evolve in the future?
So if I have to talk about my interest, I think it started very early in the college days. And then maybe I would say in the school days itself, when you have those computer sessions, you realize this is something very interesting. You can play around with it. And it all started with an Excel. And then assembling some computers with my cousins and playing around with them and typing and whatnot. It just built my interest. But then over the period of time, I in the college, in the labs, we used to play around, connect LANs, WANs, and especially at that time, there used to be chat rooms online, and people were getting malwares. So how to remove those malwares? I infected my first laptop with an adware. It was fancy, but then I used to get pop-ups. Do you want to reduce weight? Do you want to travel here? Do you want to do this? That was very crazy. It took me 2 days to remove that. That was the most crazy thing I did. And I still remember that. And I think that's where I realized this is something very interesting. But then when I joined the workforce, and especially when I moved to security, it was all a serendipity, where I got a job within my first organization. and they asked me to be part of it, because when you are a fresher, you are a new joiner, you sometimes don't have a choice. And in that time, I think I maybe I was a little scared, but then I think that was more that was amazing for me, and that's how I all started with it. And over the years, it has just grown. The interest has grown because every day I'm learning something new. Every part of it teaches me something new. And the best part is the peeps in the industry are so warm. Everyone is so warm to you, and would share their knowledge, are always ready to explain it to you. Like, I ask a lot of questions. I'll be very candid about it. If there's something that I'm not understanding, I will bang my head for an hour or so. Like, I do everything. But then if it's not working, I'm going to reach out to the maintainer and I'm going to, can you please tell me, this is what I've done so far? And this small thing that I might be missing. So I think that's, yeah.
That's a good point. Do you because you said like testers and security, similar topics will grow together. There was this one question, and also at the beginning you even said like developers need to become the security specialists and not just the security specialists, and maybe the security specialists will become some point developers and so on. Do you think this whole thing will still also grow together? Like, do developers need to have some special security assessments in the future?
I don't think so. Trust me, it's built in them. It is already built in them more than a security person. Because when you know what's inside your house and how to have a lock, you can change it, you can modify it, you can tweak it the way so that the thieves don't come inside. But when you just know the keys to the door, how will you handle? Like, you have so many doors in the house and you have windows. Now, as a security person, I would lock all the doors, but I didn't know about the windows, so I wouldn't be able to do it. Now, as a developer, as a tester, you knew all the doors, you knew all the windows. So you're going to be locking all of them simultaneously. Now, how to lock it, you know it. It's just that when you have a little bit on the security mindset that, oh, here things can go wrong, then you tend to move towards that automatically. It's like an organic shift that happens. You don't need to learn something new. It just comes to you naturally.
Okay, that's good to know. And talking a bit maybe about Synk as well, could you give some use cases of, for example, let's say interesting attacks that we had in the past or so where it was very, very helpful? Or are there any packages, well-known packages where you say, okay, these are kind of known for the vulnerabilities, but maybe people didn't know it and so on?
Right. So first of all, security research team at Synk keeps finding new bugs, like the JavaScript type confusion I showed, where from string to array, if I convert the source, it starts replicating. It removes the sanitization function. So that was done by Synk. There are many other researchers. But then at the same time, if I talk about Node.js platform, the vulnerability disclosure team, so the whole process is being managed by Synk because we wanted to contribute to open source. And if any new bug comes, especially if the log4j we talk about, Synk came up with a lot of research. We did a lot of sessions. We came up with goofs. We created awesome lists and whatnot so that people get educated about it. So Synk strategy is not about the product only. It is all about developers first, because they are the people who write the code, who are there, and testers first, so that they actually can help us in securing the world. And even let me tell you one very interesting thing. So what you can do is you can actually, I'll give you a URL where we are running this big fix. So this is a kind of a drive that we are doing, where we are inviting all of the people to register themselves, and you can actually be part of it. And totally, there'll be some nice swags which will be sent to you. So what you can do is you can just use this URL, and you can register yourself and be part of the big fix. So with the big fix, we're going to be securing a lot of open source ecosystem. Let me put it in our chat box. Let me put it in the WeAreDevelopers so that you can register yourself. So if you do it, it will be totally amazing. Like literally, you'll be fixing so many bugs around the world. It is just an open source initiative that we've just started, so that we all come together and fix the bugs in
Oh,
any
that's
system.
cool. That's a cool initiative. So I
Yeah.
hope a lot of people join that. It's really cool. How can someone imagine, like, if you can disclose it, but how does the research team works at Synk? Are they like just going, through open source project, like, going through GitHub and just trying things out, getting the projects and playing with it? Or how can someone imagine that from the outside?
It actually depends, because research is not just about going to the open source projects and start playing around with them, but more of understanding where exactly problem could be, and then going about a vulnerability. Sometimes it takes 6 months also to find a vulnerability, because there's so much going on. So it depends. Let's say you pick up a project, you start using it, and suddenly realize that I feel there's some flaw here. There are some issues here. And then you start working towards understanding what that issue is, how you can exploit it, and how it should be fixed. And that's how these 0 days vulnerability come into picture. The people research about it and then publish their research, get the right CVE, which is like the common vulnerability, the ID that is there for every vulnerability, so that you can search it on the internet and you can share it with the rest of the people. But I've seen some people, they just go about attacking everything and finding it, which I feel is not the right way. But the right way is to finding a bug, creating a POC, submitting for a CVE, and at the same time submitting it to the vendor, letting them know that there is a bug in you, and taking a lead time. So this is called responsible disclosure by a researcher, and this is called researcher as well. And then they the lead time when the product vendor fixes it, and then you can go ahead and make it public as well. So that's how it goes, basically. Just the simple words. But then there are many ways companies are doing research. They have specific teams who are only just doing that. Let's say if we have a Node.js team, so there's a specific team who is working only on that platform. There's a research on Python. There's a research on GraphQL. Or there's something new that we want to do, and we want to do research more about it. And suddenly we saw a flaw in that. So we flag it to the right vendor, and we get it fixed.
Good to know. Maybe for some people who might got interested in that, are there just possibilities to join your team?
Absolutely. I think you can go to Synk jobs, synk.is/jobs, and you would be able to find all the opportunities. And then we have so many open positions, and we would love to have you, I'm sure.
So you heard it. So if you are interested in working also for Synk, not just using Synk, then just drop them a message. I think they will be happy to hear from you. Vandana, I think our time is slightly going over. You have already took care about a lot of the questions coming into the chat. So thank you so much for actually also doing my job. So it was easier for me to follow all the answers. You have been a wonderful guest. Maybe if you could share, like, what's the best way? There was also a question in the chat. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Is it like LinkedIn or Twitter or?
Yes, both the platforms I'm active, and they can reach out to me. I've just shared my LinkedIn again, and let me share my Twitter also again here, so that they can just connect with me there. I'll be happy to answer any of their questions. And especially, I know some of the people were not able to replicate the goof because they wanted a separate system for it. So probably once they replicate after getting the recording, they can reach out to me. I might be, because of the time zone shift, there might be some slowness, but then I'll make sure that I answer all of those things.
That's very cool. And also I see Melina has posted in the comments that you have over 100 open jobs. So there's plenty of opportunities. That's really cool. So as I said, Vandana, thank you so much for being our guest. I hope to see you soon at maybe an in-person event in the future. Maybe also at our WeAreDevelopers World Congress in June. And otherwise, that would be really amazing. And wish you a nice rest of the day and see you in the future again.
Thank you. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And everyone, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye. So, and we are going into a short break, lunch break, let's call it like that. Get some energy, get some coffee, get something to eat. and we are going into our next session at 1 p.m. We will talk about MLOps and AI. And actually from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. we will have our other sessions of the DevOps Day. So get ready for that and join us in an hour again.
Everything is being influenced by code written by developers.
At some point, you're going to wake up and say, what the hell am I doing?
It's hard to believe. It's the largest group I've ever been in front of, I think.
We develop the future.